Hey everyone, welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
We are not doing a part 2 of Are Your Beliefs Your Own, which was last week's episode. However,
which I loved.
We were so in love with that conversation last week. We're like, oh, we got to continue. And there's like 10 tributaries to go down.
Oh my gosh. And I'm worried we're not even going to get it done now.
Right?
Yeah.
So
it's so good.
You know, just to make sure everyone's like caught up from last week. I'm sure you listened to it, but if you didn't,
twice.
We were talking about like if our beliefs are our own, meaning like how were our beliefs formed, and what things maybe in our life created beliefs, and then like are these beliefs serving us anymore? Like,
are they true?
Are they true? And then we started popping all sorts of ideas around like what beliefs are influencing the way you think about yourself.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of stopped there. Yep. We didn't want to get down that whole rabbit hole. So today we're going to get down that rabbit hole.
Hit record. Let's roll. I love this. I love it. Yeah, I'm so in. I'm all excited.
So we started talking about we started talking about self-limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty common term. I'm sure everyone's probably heard of self-limiting beliefs.
Yep. And every motivational speaker and trainer and coach in the universe just runs that phraseology to the ground.
Yep. So what would be an example of a self-limiting belief?
A self-limiting belief would be, I can't run a marathon because I've never run before.
Yep.
How about you? Can you think of one?
Oh, lots. Like I can't start a business because I haven't. You know, there's all. It's that whole talk track that we say all the time. Like I haven't, so I can't. It's just that whole I can't thing.
I can't because I'm going to fight for my own limiting beliefs right now by telling you all the reasons that it won't work.
Yep.
True. So we didn't like that one we didn't like that topic very much.
Well, we thought that was like what we should talk about, but then this other idea popped up, which I had never heard of before, and I think this is awesome. Self-enabling beliefs.
Yes, I love that. And that was your phraseology, by the way. You're being...
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love this idea of instead of talking about something that is limiting, which is negative and contracting and constricting, flip that around and say, what's a self-enabling belief? What's the positive side of it?
But I'll also say that if you look at any of your beliefs and you think about it as, how can I enable myself to be my better me? Then even the negative stuff is no longer negative. Then it's something that can be moved. That's why I love that phrase so much, self-enabling, because it affords you the opportunity to still be really honest with yourself about what you have to work with in this moment. Yeah. Right? It's just that you think about it very differently.
Yeah. So let's just can we just talk about the self-limiting thing for a little while, just because.
Yeah, of course.
Because I think that's like it is the reason that phrase is so popular is it because I feel like it is the default thinking for a lot of us, and
it is.
It manifests itself in like a lot of different ways. Like I might not. I don't sit around thinking, actively thinking about self-limiting beliefs. I don't wake up in the morning and I'm like, you know what? I can't be president. Like, you know.
You know what I can't do? Wear plaid.
Come on. You're a Minnesotan. You have to wear plaid. So, but it manifests itself in all sorts of different ways, like more like feeling ways. It's much more subtle. Like that self-limiting concept, like in your head.
Energy. Let's say energy.
Oh, that's a great phrase.
Yeah.
It shows up like you not taking an opportunity, you not maybe going and seeking something out. Maybe it looks like there's an opportunity at work and you just maybe, I don't know, I just don't pursue it. It just maybe that's not something I'm probably fit for. You know, it can come off a lot more subtle than our examples, like way more subtle.
Oh, I think it runs in the background. I think it is literally the jail of self-esteem. I do. I think that you open up your eyes and you immediately start running the tapes, right? I can't. It's the middle of January and I can't do my resolutions. I just can't. I don't know why I set them. Yeah. I was supposed to lose 5 pounds. Oh, I can't wear this outfit because it doesn't fit nicely anymore. Oh, I can't ask for that promotion at work when I get there because so-and-so has been doing so much more than me. It just is a constant running tape. And,
the idea that it affects your self-esteem is super key. That's a great call out, because even think back, like our conversation earlier when you were talking about not having a college degree.
Right, exactly.
Right? That has affected your self-esteem for a long time. Maybe not right in your face every day, but it's clearly, like you said, something running in the background that affects the way you see yourself.
Right. Do you know what's funny? I just remembered like one of the really big self-limiting beliefs that I had and how it manifested. And we talked about this. It was around that college degree, but I specifically remember when I worked at copy duplicating products, not even a company anymore. And I was selling technology, right? And by technology, I don't even know if it had, yes, it did have a plugin. Okay. It was a word processing typewriter. But I'll tell you a specific memory I have of getting ready for work. I had a huge briefcase filled to the brim with brochures. Okay. And I still have shoulder problems from carrying this thing around all the time. I do. All right. Thank God for the internet. Anyway, I remember thinking to myself how neat it would be if I could work with business owners and if I could just tell people how they're showing up. Like I do very specifically remember thinking it would be so cool to be some sort of, and now back then we didn't say coaches, or I certainly didn't back then. But I specifically remember thinking to myself, I would love that so much, but there's no way I can do that because that's like not only a 4-year degree, that's like way more after that. And I can't do it.
Interesting. That's like your very first thought of like being on the path to what you do now.
Yes. And I remember it distinctly. And I remember how often I would tell myself, well, that's too bad. I just have to pick something else. I have to pick something else.
So what do you think got you over that? Like what progressed after that thought? I mean, obviously a couple of years, but like what trajectory led you to where you are now? And maybe was there a moment in there where you did realize like, oh wait, I can actually do this?
So over the course of the number of years I stayed in sales because I loved people and there's another belief. Thank goodness this one wasn't self-limiting, but everyone used to tell me, you need to go in sales. You need to go in sales all the time I was growing up. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. But as I became in sales, I would go into a different role. I was in one place for 2 years and then 6 years and then 8 years for another. And I eventually started to sell personality assessments. But even in that, when I started my company 23 years ago or 22, however long it is, doesn't matter, I was only selling assessment tools. If you looked at my P&L, it was all product. And maybe 10% of it was my, quote, coaching around the product, where I would tell people what the assessment said about them. So here I was starting to dabble in this thing I absolutely loved, but I was terrified to be, quote, found out. I didn't want people to think, what are you even talking about? You're looking at this assessment. You don't even know what you're saying, okay? Yeah. And I started to become more transparent over the years when I would say, listen, I just don't see this. And now this assessment is proving it out. So the paradigm started to shift where I began to dabble just a little bit in sharing my opinions without worrying about the tool. But that was a very long time coming, and I held myself in that spot of not being able to do what I loved for a very long time, and no one else was stopping me. That was 100% me.
Yeah. Wow.
So I would say it happened over time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. Like, this touches so many things. Like, it's like you were in imposter syndrome for a little while. So like imposter syndrome is
like
basically the
decade.
same like self-limiting belief, right? Those are siblings.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this idea that you slowly kind of built up the confidence. And then that's the other thing I think is kind of interesting is like, you've got maybe this thing that's limiting you, this idea that's limiting you. Yeah. And then if you get enough confidence, then you start getting over it. So like that was my next question. What are the things that can help people get over a self-limiting belief? And in your story, it was just a little bit of traction over a long period of time, a little more repetition, maybe a little, you're edging, you're putting your opinion in these things just a little bit more and more and more over the course of a decade till finally you feel confident that you're.
Yeah. But even so, I don't think that had I not done some other things that would have changed. I don't think my paradigm would have changed at all had I not taken my own inventory and said, I'm not happy. I can't figure out what to do. I don't want to do anything.
Was there like a moment when that happened, or was that again over some time? Like how did that happen?
I got sued.
Oh.
So I don't recommend this.
Okay.
But I know that was a bit of a bomb. Sorry, you weren't expecting that. Here's the thing though.
I thought it was like, well, I went on a meditation retreat.
I was on a magic carpet, No, I'll tell you, I started to do this thing where I was selling these assessments and I was really starting to love it. And I was recognizing that I was really good at it. And I became like the highest producing distributor of this tool in the States. Second only to another distributorship up in Montreal. It was an international company. Anyway, at the same time, the owner of that company was mentally ill and he started to blow up distributors' databases. So all these assessments were getting blown up because he had these moments of delusion where he thought that the company wasn't paying bills or they were trying to get into his intellectual property. And so I had to leave. And when I left, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But this idea that I can't take care of people is, I no longer have a choice. I can't do anything else but this because I know this is for me. So it was almost like part of me was pushing me towards that, while the other part of me was like, I can't do anything to deny that anymore. I can't deny it anymore. I'm tired of denying it. I'm so unhappy making myself stay in this place that I'm not going to stay here anymore. So I think my learning model was way longer than most people's has to be. I really do. Self-limiting beliefs, I think, for me, recognizing that feeling of holding myself back felt so constricting, disappointing, depressing. It was just, I was miserable.
So, I like this idea that maybe that negative feeling is coming from like a belief you have. Like yours was coming 100%. From a belief you had. Once you change that belief, totally, you're able to move forward, become much happier, much more productive.
And I spent a lot of time developing myself, as you know, and we've talked about in the pod over the years, is like, I went to different types of sessions and training and positive motivational trainings. That's why I have kind of the attitude I have about them, is because I have invested thousands and thousands of dollars on my own development. I've gone to hundreds of hours of development over the years, and I'm so glad that I did, because it did help me sort of identify. And I think that's the thing, is like, you have to, people, even in some of my Leadership Academy work that I do today, people come to me and say, well, can you just send me a book about that? Can you just, what should I do? And they want somebody else to answer for them because they have a belief that they can't come up with anything on their own.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, you have to take your own inventory and you have to be honest with yourself about what is.
Yeah.
I think that's the number one thing first.
Yeah. The other thing about beliefs that that I believe is when you have them, like your brain, you've constructed a belief, and that creates your reality. So
exactly.
that's the idea that we have a belief that is limiting us. That just creates the environment that we believe. Because like we've talked about manifesting, like reality is manifested out of your deepest feelings, and if you've got that feeling of limitation, that's what's gonna be created.
So can we shift gears a little?
Please.
Okay, please. Here's where I want to shift gears. Okay, so we're all moving along our merry little lifeline. We all have our stuff. We've all got self-limiting beliefs, right? And we spend quite a bit of energy fighting for our own limitation. In other words, arguing about why it can't be different, okay? If you just consider the amount of energy that it takes to do that, if you just think about that, how much energy that takes, whether it's conscious or subconscious, how much energy it takes you, what would happen? And this is what I play with all the time, and I love doing this. I have so much fun with this now. What would happen if you at least gave the positive equal time, or you shifted to, or maybe that's not right question, or maybe that's not right. I've done that in my work. I've done that with my income. I've done that with the vehicles I drive. I mean, this whole idea of the law of attraction, really putting out there what it is that you want energetically, and then feeling the feelings of having it already. Changing the belief to something like, I'm going to enable myself. There's our great word. I want to enable myself to be so comfortable in my life that things come to me so easily. What's the matter with thinking like that? Why don't we do that more?
That's a great question. I was wondering, so let me ask you this. You do this with your coaching clients. Like, you help them. Well, do you see their limiting beliefs
in 2 seconds
earlier than they do? Like, they don't see them, but you see them. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's so easy for someone else to see something in you? Like, how do you see that in your clients? And they don't see it.
I think, I mean, this is a deep question, and this may not be what you expect me to say, but I think that we have been encouraged from the time we're born to not try to stand out or showboat. Don't be narcissistic. Don't be these things. Even if you're good at something, keep it under wraps. I think we have been encouraged and socialized to not have what we have that's really, really good. And so as a result, we almost ignore it or forget about it. It like starts to just be something that's running in our programming.
There's an absolutely awesome book about that topic called The Icarus Deception by Seth Godin. And Icarus was like a mythological character that flew too close to the heavens and was struck down by the gods.
That's
right. The moral of the story is don't fly too high. Don't think you mere mortal can go up to the heavens near the gods, because you're not allowed up there. His whole book is that obviously that's BS, and ignore that. That's not a good value for society. That's that kind of story.
No. Well, Seth Godin is he's the marketing guy, right? He's an amazing marketing guy. Yeah. So I saw him speak, and his presentation was absolutely fantastic. So you know how most people get up with a PowerPoint or whatever, and they have like a couple of slides. His were just images.
Let me ask you this. What if you pushed that too far? Like, can you push that too far? Can you come into a situation with so much self-confidence, just believing that you can do unbelievably amazing things? Does that work? Like, let's pretend you're kind of like a weird mad scientist, and you think that you can move humanity to Mars. Right? Like, so like our friend Elon Musk,
Elon Musk. Like, I was just thinking him too. Oh, you mean
like there is a guy who clearly has no self-limiting beliefs, and his beliefs are so over the top that, and in some ways you're like, you gotta you got to be kidding, dude. How do you
Yeah.
think you can like accomplish these things? But I think he truly thinks he can.
Well,
Now, is that serving
it's
him?
self-awareness.
I mean,
I
is
think
that
a lot of it is self-awareness,
or is it
right?
is in these situations, is it too much ego, too over the top?
Put it this way. Yes, there are those people, but I don't think that the mass of us are worrying about being like that. I think the majority of us are the other way around. The majority, I would say 80 or 90%, are people that have so many skills and beautiful gifts that they hold themselves back because even before they even recognized they were creating thinking patterns, they created really strong thinking patterns. And I feel like my life's work, and I don't mean to sound too, over the top, but it's really true. My life's work is to help people see what their beautiful gifts are and to just fully step into them. Not through ego, not through falsity, but truth.
Yeah. I agree with you. My observation of most people I interact with, they're way too kind of, I wouldn't say maybe humble, but they're definitely they don't self-promote. They do have a lot of things to offer, and they just kind of hold themselves in a box.
Yeah, and it's very sad to watch, especially because you can see it. When you've taken the time to unbox yourself in a positive way for the benefit of you and everyone else on the planet, it becomes much easier to see it in other people. It's just way, way easier to see the positive, to see the beautifulness of every individual. And I love that Oscar Wilde phrase that says, be yourself, everyone else is already taken.
Yeah, right.
I just wish people could step into that and say, well, what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen?
Here's the worst that can happen. I can tell you, it's terrible.
We were going so well.
The worst that can happen, I feel this all the time. This is like probably one of my number one fears. The worst that can happen is you can say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Like for me, like every time I start a company, I'm so terrified. It is so scary because I go out in front of a whole bunch of people, run around and say, hey, I'm starting this thing. I think it's going to be the next thing. Because starting a company takes a lot of resources, a lot of money, a lot of time. You got to sell things that aren't there. Like it's all, you're putting yourself way out there.
Totally.
And if it doesn't work, and you and I've experienced it, and statistically it's probably not going to work. But when it doesn't work, it's really hard. So it's really hard to run around and say, hey, I'm going to go do a thing. Look at me. I'm creating this future for myself, and I know I can do it. And then when it doesn't work, it's really hard to recover from. Yeah.
And see, there is where then the self-limiting beliefs kick in even stronger for a lot of people because they say, see, I knew it.
I knew I couldn't do it.
Here's the wonderful thing that I think about learning self-objectivity is there's so many situations, almost all of them, where you can say there were so many outside factors. There was situational things that I learned along the way. There were reasons why the timing of this was wrong or the partner wasn't quite right. And again, it's not to place blame anywhere. It's simply to understand. It's like if you take that sort of approach of objectivity and understanding, it's a wonderful, beautiful thing because there's your learning, right? And you're now a better, more resource person than you were before. And that's the thing that I just wish people could have more self-enabling beliefs that say, it's okay to feel like before this didn't work for me. It's okay to think I want to lose 5 pounds, and even if I have the 5 pounds, I am still really good. Like it's not impacting my relationships. It's not impacting my ability to be safe in this world. It's not impacting my ability to have a strong, connection with my family or just putting things in a more objective sense, because I think we have these ideas sometimes and they continue to crowd us in and we get smaller and smaller and smaller. And I say, get the hell out of the box. Why not? At least give the positive equal time.
Yeah. Well, that's a very mature way to look at it. Good for you.
That's what you wanted to talk about today, is enabling self-belief.
Yeah. Well, some things I heard you say that help me is you put a different frame around it. So some things that I want to go do that I don't think maybe I can do.
Yeah.
What I have to do is put a different frame around it.
Yeah.
Because the frame for, in my example, business isn't success or failure of the business. I can't put that frame on it, or else I won't ever be able to get out of bed and actually do that task.
Yeah, exactly.
The frame has to be around like learning or attempting or some other kind of growth thing.
Yeah.
Because if I focus on the end result, it's like disabling. I can't get there.
Here's the other thing. We are putting out an energy all the time, and the universe isn't answering our thoughts. The universe is answering the energy that we are putting out there, period. I don't care if you are into the voodoo stuff, hokey pokey stuff or not. That's truth. Everyone interacts with each other, and the universe is interacting with you based on your energy. So if you are constantly putting out an energy that says, I'm open, I'm curious, I think I can do this, you will be rewarded a million times over and over and over. And then just start small, and pretty soon you get bigger, and it gets a little bigger, and it gets really, really fun to play with it that way.
Yep. So I think that is the lesson here. All this rambling.
all of it.
The idea that if you can sit and feel open instead of feel closed, that's the key. And I can't explain how to do that. Maybe you can explain how to do that, but I feel that. I can feel when I start getting closed-minded around ideas and beliefs, and I can actively choose to become open with my energy.
Yes.
And I can do that just sitting here, or I know when I start in my little negative spiral, I can say, oh, I'm in that spiral. Let me try to open up.
Well, not try, because try is already 50% failure. So if you're in a negative, if you're in that, right, then it simply can be, and this isn't, and this isn't, and this isn't. Okay, here's the transition. Or, even that word, or, can lop off that negative spiral. And this isn't going to work. Or maybe it actually could work. At least give the positive equal time. If you hear yourself telling yourself reasons things aren't going to work, I know I'm going to talk to my husband and he's going to act like this because he does every single time. Or maybe see him acting differently when you go to speak with him, or just, it's just stuff like that. It's like, try it out and don't be discouraged. Like, enjoy the process of trying something new. Have some fun with it. Have some fun with it.
Yep. All right. Good. This is great. So I don't mean to linger. We probably got to cut this whole thing off, but it's this idea, and even the one our conversation last week about, like, are our beliefs our own? I feel like this is such a fundamental piece of self-awareness. Like, if you can get into a mindset where, like you said, you're taking your own inventory, you're thinking, and you're sort of challenging your own beliefs, and you're understanding how your beliefs were formed, you're figuring out if those serve you anymore, you're kind of being mindful of your own thoughts and observing when some limiting things are kicking in, and then you're working on changing your energy. That's life-changing stuff.
Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes you do it to prove someone wrong. Sometimes you push through the barriers that you have created or someone else has created for you. You push through them to prove to yourself and to them that was a wrong premise. And that is a very fun way to start a positive momentum going.
The next episode, personal development out of spite.
No. Actually, I know we're getting late. I just want to say this one thing. So my first job, I made $15,000 a year. Okay. And when I was scared because I didn't have a college degree. And when I went to quit, the owner said, do you want to become the manager and I'll pay you more? And I said, no, because it was toxic environment. And the guy says, you're never going to make more than you make here. The very next job that I got was $33,000.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
Doubled.
It over doubled. Okay. The very next job after that, it over doubled again.
Wow.
And I was 22 years old, and it hasn't stopped since. And that is 100% because of a belief that I can play with this. I can change these outcomes. It's kind of fun. I don't exactly know how, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So that's just one simple, small example of how you can break through your terror barriers. You can break through your self-limiting things and go to more self-enabling, even in the exact same topics you spend time thinking about today.
Awesome. Amazing. Amazing. Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.